what does it mean that Jehovah delighted in, or took pleasure in, or was well pleased with, or was satisfied with Messiah being crushed or shattered? Think about that. See, and it's not that God the Father took pleasure in the physical punishment and contempt poured out by sinful man on His holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners' Son. This pleasure or this satisfaction of God has to do with Christ's work as His people's surety. And to state it as simply as I can state it is this way: the only one that can satisfy God is who? One who is God. You and I can't. Only God can. Remember what Paul said? And all things are of God, who hath reconciled us to Himself. How did He do it? How did He reconcile us to Himself? By Jesus Christ. That's the only way. And hath given us the ministry of reconciliation. What are we telling sinners every time we stand up to preach? To wit, that God was in Christ reconciling the world unto Himself. This is God satisfying God. All our lives we were taught by well-intentioned, though deluded individuals, that it was like God and Satan were in some kind of contest. Satan don't even have a dog in this hunt. This was a holy God who was offended by sinful men. This was a holy God who would by no means clear the guilty. This is a God who when He finds the least of sin in the best of men, what does He require? Eternal condemnation. And the only way He could be satisfied was how? By one made like unto them, doing everything that was required of them to absolute perfection and offering Himself, His soul, His person as a sacrifice for sin. He was reconciling the world to Himself. How did He do that? Not imputing trespasses to them. Well, does He just pretend like those trespasses didn't happen? Does He just kind of cover His eyes up and say, well, I'm going to pretend that I'm not going to look at it? No, what did He do? He charged them not to them. Who did He charge them to? 2 Corinthians 5:21. He made Him to be sin for us who knew no sin. See, the reason God can and does take pleasure in Christ being crushed is because He stood in our place. And there's absolutely no other way by which God could be satisfied. Even I, Jehovah says, am He that blotteth out thy transgressions. He blots them out. What did He do it for? For my own sake. And since He did it for His own sake, since He satisfied Himself, He can say this with sincerity and dogmatically. Will not remember thy sins. Why? I've satisfied myself.